max, that's too much inventory, and I'm going to burn up profitability. It's just a dipstick. Now, the second part of this, if you pull out the dipstick and you're not paying attention, and it looks like it's between min and max, but it turns out it's not oil, it's water. You guys with me? That's the P&A now. Everyone with me? What you're comparing it to. There's your P&A, and it turns out it's water, not oil, i.e. it says you have 50, but you really don't. You're still going to burn the engine up. So it's just a dipstick, min and max, and the oil's the P&A, and is the oil the right oil in there to do the job? It's not mixed with antifreeze, it's not mixed with water, so on and so forth. Got a hand up here, so on and so forth.
So I have a question about low usage items with small review cycles and slow.
Why don't you hold that one for me?
Okay.
Because that one's going to get us out of the, I mean, I still want you to ask it, but that'll be a good one. There's a section we're going to come to with exceptions. Okay. It'll be tomorrow. Somehow I think you're not sure what's going over here, Ferris. I don't know what that is. Let's just make sure. Yeah, there's something down there that's going astray. I think it's just Ferris, that big guy, and it's just kinking it up, man. Okay, so just hold that. There's a section that you'll come across that you go, this is the one to ask this, okay? All right. So now, what was P&A again? Let's just make sure. Well, it's your on hand, of course, right? Minus your committed, plus your incoming. And again, on hand that's inflated, you really don't have it, but it thinks you have it. What's that going to cost, service or profit? Thinks we have 50, but we really don't. Service issue. Now, it'll become a profit issue, but your first hit is a service issue. Opposite of that. It doesn't know we have 50, it thinks we have 0, but we really have 50 somewhere out there. Now what's going to happen? Purchasing's going to buy it. We're going to put it on top of the other ones, try to find some room. We've got profitability, too much inventory issues. Now, everyone, like I said yesterday, they go, I get that. What's the big deal? But yet, that 50 inflated on hand is exactly the same as a bogus incoming of some type. If you got a PO on there with 50 on it that's never going to arrive, it's not real anymore. You got a transfer on there for 50 that's never going to arrive, or you got a work order on there for 50 that's never going to get produced for whatever reason, that's exactly the same thing as the inflated on hand of 50. So you have to have good on-hand integrity, but you also have to keep your paper float reasonably accurate. Bogus incomings will cause fill rate issues all day long. Bogus committeds will cause profitability issues all day long. Okay. Let's go take this apart now. Usage, lead time, safety, order cycle, EOQ. The main thing, now I know I'm covering this, I want you to see it again, but what I want you to see overall from that is the order point drives fill rate. The line point EOQ drive profitability, and we control that. We are in control of our customer experience and our profitability, how much it costs us to offer that experience. So if I want a good order point, I need a good usage. And again, I'm going to go through this a little quicker. You guys stop me if we need to. But we collect usage buckets. Comes from sales. We sell things to customers. We invoice them. That creates usage. What else should go into our usage file? Yeah. Transfers. Now, we use them a little bit different as rolled up, but think about that. If I have to feed other branches out of a central distribution center, they're really just my internal customers. So I have to feed my external customers and my internal. That's part of my usage buckets. Lost sales is the next one I'm looking for. And again, what I'm looking for there is if they come in and ask for 10, I don't have 10 and they only take 9 and I don't back order it, do I want my system to say bring in 9 for them or bring in the 10 they want it? The 10, that's lost business, and I gave you a trick overall yesterday. Lost sales is really easy to get going in companies if it's done right. The simple thing is this, just always put on the order what the customer wants. Don't go through that negotiation ahead of time. Oh, we only have 10 or 9. Okay, I'll take the 9. We enter at 9, ordered 9, ship. I always put on the order, how many do you want? 10. That's what goes on my order. Oh, I only have 9. What do you want to do? All the rest of it will work itself out. I want to capture originally, how many did you want? Everyone there? So, go ahead. Right here's a mic coming for you, JR.
Okay, so my question with that is, we log 6 items on the customer's order. One of them is a lost sale. Just to clarify from yesterday, does the whole order get logged as the lost sale at that point, or just that one line item?
No, I would do. Here's what was asked again. Customer has 6 lines with us. One of them we can't fulfill, so we lose the whole order, correct?
I'm getting the other 5 items.
Oh, we only lost the order. Now, what would happen there is if I'm selling the other 5, the usage is going to get generated for those 5 when I sell them. The 6th item at that time would be the lost sale. And again, you're just working that through. They're going to say, yep. Oh, the 6th one you don't have? Don't back order it. Cancel it. I'm going to push it through as a lost sale. Okay, very good. So again, sales plus transfers plus lost sales. Now there's some stuff I should probably, even though I'm selling it, not go into my usage. What's that? Well, things not off. No, I'm selling this. It's creating usage. I'm getting ready to invoice it. It's going to create usage. But some of that I'm going, it's not going to what? Repeat. It's a non-reoccurring. You guys like to call it exceptional, but I stay away from that term. Why? Because if we sell 10 at a time and all of a sudden you sell 100th, the human common sense wants to say what? Oh, it's a large quantity, so it's an exceptional sale. And I tried to debunk that yesterday. An exceptional sale is not a large quantity. It can be one being sold. An exceptional sale is a non-reoccurring sale. If I normally sell 10 and now I sell 100, but it's a new customer that's going to come in every month, that's not a non-recurring. It's now part of my business. It's not an exceptional sale. If I sell 1 to somebody and I'm never going to see him again, that's an exceptional sale, a non-reoccurring sale. Okay? So sales plus transfers plus lost sales less exceptional sales, and then there's human input. We sometimes have to manipulate this, and the biggest one, without getting into detail, usage comes from the past, but we want it to represent what? The future. So again, the one I'll just talk about, if I picked up that new customer, I've been selling 10, 10, 10, and now we're going to sell 100, I'm going to go back and change my history on important items, not all of them, important items like that customer's been with me all along. And if I lose a major customer, I'm going to go back into the usage and remove their history, otherwise my system's going to keep buying. If you let it stay based on the past and the future's changed, and you don't change it, it's going to keep repeating the past, not what's really coming up. So sometimes you have to get in and manipulate, change, correct, align your usage buckets. So now we've got these usage buckets. Then we apply a method to it. If it's non-seasonal, we'll use a B backwards method, a non-seasonal method. If it's seasonal, we're going to use some type of seasonal method. And again, I call it trending. Then there's a second part with this. How many months do you want to look at? Hey, I'm going to look backwards. Am I going to use a 3-month window, a 4-month window, a 12-month window? What helps me determine what window I should use? That helped, yeah, that's the end, but now I'm going to keep pushing Dave to that concept why. Okay. Keep going for me. Part of me wants to take a narrow window on an item. Part of me wants to take a wide window. Why do I want to use the narrowest window I can? It reacts quicker because anytime you add more buckets into it, more months, it starts to flatline the average. I mean, I've gone into companies where we're using a 5-year average, a 5-year average. I go, why are you doing that? Because the system can. Well, that was a great answer, right? I mean, it's taken 5 years history. That has nothing to do 5 years ago, and they even came back and they looked and they go, God, we don't know how we even got here, why we were thinking this, why we didn't catch it. You guys are with me. The point is this. A 3-month window, if it only has 3 months, it's going to react much quicker versus a 12-month window because you got 12 months in there. So I want a narrow window so it reacts quicker. But then there's part of me that wants a wider window to do what? Button it up, take out irregulars. There may be months on I don't even sell things. Hey, I didn't even sell any of this for the last 3 months. It was 4 months ago. So on slower items or erratic items, I want a wider window to help smooth it out a little bit. Now we can take advantage of what Rick is saying, and you're going to see this coming along yesterday. I go, in general, we talked about ranks yesterday, and I can use this since it's based on hits, velocity, how much the item is used. The more activity we have against an item, what? The better the usage buckets are going to be. If you sell it once a year, and you look at that usage bucket, you could probably, and I ask you, how many do you think you're going to sell? And you go, well, I don't really know. Another item you're selling 43 times a day, and it's consistently around 3,000 or 4,000 a month. And you look at it, you're going to be able to say pretty quickly what? We're going to sell between 3,000 or 4,000 more than likely because I have enough data there that I feel very comfortable with that. And what we came up with is most companies, I'll get them started, use a 3-month window on A's. Use a 4-month window on B's, a 5-month window on D's, 6 and 6 on D's and E's. It's just acknowledging what we just said. A items have lots of activity. They're not as erratic. I want them to react quicker. I'm going to use a smaller window. And as I go down this, the erratic starts to pick up, and the months with no business in them, I'm going to widen that window up as I work down my ranks. Anything here we need to discuss?
If you have that exceptional sell in the month of June, realistically, June's usage isn't going to show up until July 1st. So when you
See, now you do
go-
understand that.
So now when you go in and correct it for June, it's really, you're not going to see it until August.
Well, no, because here's what. 2 things. Here's what's the question. What if I took an exceptional sale in June? Now, there's 3 ways I'm going to say you're going to find it or fix it. What's the best place to get exceptional sales? Who knows best? Right at sales. We go in and push really hard. Sales controls our inventory. I know you don't like to hear that, but that is what it is. And we teach them how to control it properly. Put your sales on, put your lost sales on, and if you know that's not going to repeat, mark the exceptional right there. And it turns out with a little bit of training and education and understanding, we actually end up getting order entry people do about 80% of the exceptional sales for us. That's right there hot on the fly. You with me? Yep. Now, the next part, we missed it. What's going to happen is when you forecast on July 1, so your July 1, now it used it, but there's some exception tools you'll see in step 8, and it's going to have some parameters, and it might come right out and say, you know what? You sold 10 of these 3 months ago, 10 2 months ago, 10 months ago. You sold 100 this month. Maybe you better take a look at it. Now, you're going to have to look and do what? Because I can't tell you whether that 100's exceptional or not. What are you going to have to really do? Theoretically, you have to say who entered that order, what was the customer, call them up. Do you plan on them coming back or not? But you would catch it right the very next day or within a couple days and forecast, and now it's going to take your new adjusted June number. You with me? The third spot you would catch it is if you missed it during order entry, you missed it during the exception, you're going to cut your first PO at some point. I'm not looking for you to dive into every item, but we bring experience with us, and you're going to scan down and go, you know, that's an expensive item, and it's buying a lot more. You're going to dive into and go, oh, there it is. Now, again, that's not the way I want you to find them, but you will find them that way, because that was where you started. I'll find it in August by working the RAR. I'm going to back up and say, get your salespeople to find it, use good exception tools to find it, then come across it in the RAR if we still haven't found it. Fair? Yep. Perfect. Got another question here.
Along the same line, we have openings that can be exceptional, but following those openings, the usage may get streamlined and we'll see a slight bump. How would you account for that?
Ask me that. I'm not quite there.
So normally we're going along, we're selling something 10 a week, and suddenly we get an opening and it pops to 60 a week. But the next week we're at 30, 30, 30. So it's an exception, but it elevates your total sales. Make sense?
Well, here, it makes sense, but I'm not sure. So here, we've been selling 10 a week, 10 a week, 10 a week, 10 a week. We sell 60,
Correct.
and now we're selling 30 a week?
No, now we're selling, say, 20
Oh, now
or
you're
30.
talking about the average of these.
Yeah, so
right?
what's
So it's-
happening is we have the exception, which may be an opening, a new customer coming on and buying a lot of something, but then we take a dip, and then we'll see a slight elevation from the former 10.
Okay, and again, when you say you take a dip, is it the next week you take a dip, or are you talking about the average
It
usage?
can actually take a month or 2 before we see a reorder, but then they reorder for replenishment and not for the opening.
Okay. So now you're back, you've stabilized.
Maybe,
You opened
yeah.
the store, bought a whole bunch, and now you're saying you went to this. Okay. You're saying, and what should I do with the 60?
Yeah, should we flag that as an exceptional sale?
You tell me, are they going to open it again next week?
No.
You just answered your question. Is
Okay.
it reoccurring?
No, but we need to plan for an increase somehow,
Well,
some
the
way.
30 is planning, that's already in there.
If we flag it out.
Well, I didn't say flag. Now, again, there's different ways. If you flag the whole 60 exceptional, I'm with you. It's going to knock it all out. And what you're really saying is, in my mind, if I could see into the future a little bit, looks like they're going to be buying 30. Now, that's the inventory management part. That's why I don't have systems do everything. It's going to report things to you. But now you have to be savvy enough to say, should I knock out the whole 60? Or, really, if you thought about it, it could have been 2 lines in OE. I'm not saying do this, but 30 was to get them started, and 30 was their first initial order. 1 line's exceptional, 1's not. But what I would have done when you just explained that to me, and I found this 60 after I've been, now originally I probably would have gone back to 10 and go, oh, because I didn't see them. But then the very next month something's going to happen. I'm going to come back and rethink my answer, check with somebody, go, oh yeah, they did an opening. Ah, okay. So 30 of that is standard. So I wouldn't have overrode that to 10, or I would have said 30. And I would have come back since I picked up a new customer, because if I don't fix these, they're going to still override in there. I'm going to change my past to reflect the future and act like their buying pattern is in there and mellow out more, smooth out my usage buckets.
So the answer is don't flag it as exceptional, let the inventory manager adjust it.
Yeah, that whole line would not be flagged an exceptional, or they would enter it as 2 lines. What's the non-reoccurring part and what's the regular part?
Okay.
Very good. I know we got into some of these deeper and I thought, and I held you back, and I don't know if they're this, but do you want to ask that one? Does it apply with where we're at or later? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Now, everyone understands what we're doing with these usage buckets later. Who was it? Gary last night. He's going, man, it's going to take a long time to set this system. When we get into the parameters, you're going to find out. We can set all this up in about 15 minutes. Let the system do all this for you. It'll determine the ranks. You just got to tell it what usage, and it'll go through and populate all your items. You'll see that in a little while. All right? Now, what's the next part of this? We've got our rank. We're applying usage controls accordingly. We know if it's backwards or seasonal. The next part I want to add in here for usage is, what if it's a seasonal item? It's going to apply a trend to it. Remember, a seasonal item says, here I am in June. Let's look back a year, grab the 3 months going forward, but we don't know if it's going to do this. That would work perfect. Or what if it's doing this? What if it's doing this? And we'll apply a trend to it. And again, we'll take a look if it's a 3-month item, the 3 months that just happened, the same 3 months last year, and if we sold 10 during that period and 20 during that same period, we're running about double. So take this last year's number, whatever it is, and double it for this year. If we're running at half, cut it in half. That's the trending mechanism. And you'll see the setup for all this. I'm just doing this review, this first morning review with you. The next thing that's out there is the advance by lead time. If you've got a 90-day lead time, I'm sitting here in June. Am I buying for June, July, and August? No. I'm not buying for June, July, or August, and theoretically be here. I'm not buying for those 3 months. I'm buying for September, October, November. So I want to come back and use those same 3 months here to line up for when it comes in. I'm buying the product for them. That's the advance by lead time. So good usage buckets, applying them right, getting a good average monthly usage. That's this. How do we get a good lead time? We take receivers in. We've got an average lead time, and the system has the capabilities, which you'll see in a little while, to say it's a good lead time, or maybe it's an exception. And the same thing we just talked about. When's the best time to catch an exceptional lead time? I'm putting a PO on today and telling it to next day error. That's just like OE with exceptions. The person entering it usually knows the answer. That's when I should have been flagging that lead time right then, exceptional, this one time. Oh, this early order that we're telling them to ship in next June won't be here for a year, but they could ship. I'm going to mark that exceptional. So I'm catching them during entry. But then there's tools wrapped around them. Just like we talked with Gary, it's going to say, hey, if you missed it, the system's going to use some numbers and say, you know what? It's always taken 10 days to have this product in, and this one took 24 days. Is that the new normal, or was that the exception? So you're watching your lead time buckets. Then most of us are going to take the average of the last 3 or 4 lead times, not older than 6 months, to come up with an average lead time. Then we have to come in and apply our safety stocks. So usage, lead time, and now safety. And this was our usage bucket, just so you don't get lost in there. Now safety stock, we went through this yesterday. I'm just going to talk about the percentage. Later we'll bring in the days, fences around it. But in general, what needs a larger safety percentage? An A item or a C item? And before you answer that, let me help you out with that. What is safety for again? Fluctuations in usage and lead time and how well I can predict them. So which one's more fluctuant? Which one's easier to predict? An A items, usage and lead time, that we're selling 43 times a day and receiving once a week, or a D item that we sell once a year and receive once a year? I can predict A's much better. So the percentage, 50%, I need less safety. Now the units will be great because you sell so much A, 50% will still be a lot of units. But as a percentage, I need less safety percentage on an A. And again, it should be common sense. It's just because it's more predictable than a D item that's not as predictable. I need more safety. And then I just like to do this because companies go, you're nuts though. 125% on a D item. And again, I remind them, how much D do we normally carry? Very little. 50% of almost nothing is almost nothing, and 125% of almost nothing is still almost nothing. You go and change your A's from 50 to 125, you better find another warehouse because you're getting ready to bring in a lot of inventory. All right? Now, I mentioned one second thing that determines safety stock. What if I don't care about the fill rate on this D item? If we happen to have it for them, great, but they can wait, and if we don't have it, it's not the end of the world. Then I'm not going to put any safety stock on it. I'm going to put 125 on the D's if it's important. I'm going to put 0 on items where it doesn't matter. Everyone there? So it's fluctuations in usage and lead time and how important the fill rate is. And again, in general, for safety stock, the percentage part of it, 50%, 75, 100, 125. And E's, we're not selling, I don't need any safety. So usage, lead time, safety to get a good order point. It's the collection of the data. It's the right exceptions around it to make sure the data is good, then applying the method of taking the data and turning it into an average monthly usage, turning it into an average lead time. That's the process. Collecting good data, applying the right parameters, turning it into a good number. Now, there was one more thing that we talked about yesterday that sometimes, even though the usage is right, the lead time is right, the safety is right, i.e. the order point's right, there's a better order point. It's not that it's wrong, but when we back up and look at it, we go, there's a better order point here. All systems traditionally, this is what they did. This was the order point calculator. We have 3 other things in there to help you with order points. And again, I'll give you that example. If I've got something that I'm using 40 a month of, and it takes 7 days to come in, and I've got a 50% safety on it, it said, well, I sell 10 during 7 days, add a 50%, that's 15. Now that's what we were calling yesterday. I called the calc. If you're in SX, just to clear it up, it calls it the raw order point. That's the calculator raw order point based off of usage during lead time plus safety stock. If I only have that, I'd go, hey, that's great. If I said, is this a good order point? Yep, I sell about 40 a month. Yep, it takes about 7 days. Yep, 50%. And it would say, good order point. What it doesn't take into account, though, is what? What I call shipping habits, your requests from your customers, what's their habit on shipping to branches. And what we may find out, remember what this 15 is supposed to do, it's its order point, so what's it say? You can get down to 15 available on your shelf, place a PO or transfer, and you will have enough to satisfy your customers and branches, if you're feeding any branches, until that comes in. Everyone, that's all the order point's doing. Well, if it turns out, and I'll just skip us all the way to the problem, if it turns out this is 2 customers, 2 hits a month, and they're coming in and asking for 20, so they're not coming in once a week and asking for 10, would work great. They're coming in every other week and asking for 20. Still 40 sold. They're going to come in and ask for 20, and I've got what on the shelf? Thinking I'm great. 15. And in today's world, often having part of it but not all of it is just as bad as having none of it because they want shipped complete. You may lose the whole order or you won't get the order at least for the 5. I would rather go out and have the 20 for them if it doesn't cost me too much. This is what we call the ASQ. And in this case, it says 15 is the right number as far as calculated, but we clearly see they want 20, so I would like 20 on the shelf when they come in, not 15. So I want to do that for what? I want to move my order point from 15 to 20 for what reason? Big picture again. For customer experience. But anytime I'm getting ready to do something, because I'm getting ready to buy 5 more units, it's going to cost me money, I think about what? What's my return on this? Is it worth it? i.e. profitability. And what I said yesterday is those 5 additional units, if they're $1 each and we're talking about a $5 decision, all day long, and we'll set the system up, it'll do this for you automatically. You'll set the parameter. If it's 5 of them at $10,000, even $1,000, but it's a $50,000 decision, doesn't mean it's not a good idea. It just means I better put my human between it and it doing it and let them say whether it's worth it or not. And we'll give you an exception report and say, I want it to go to 20, but it exceeded the amount of dollars you told me I could do on my own, and most of you it'll be $500. Some of you it'll be $1,000. I'll let it go on its own up to this, and once it exceeds it, I want to bring my inventory manager specialist into it and let them help control it. Everyone good? Then there's one more higher version of that. It's called the 5 high. And I won't put all the numbers up there, but again, it looked at your 5 largest transactions during the usage period throughout the highest one. That was the one yesterday where it found the hundreds throughout the 625, and it says, hey, my 5 high shipments are 100. I have every other month or something, a customer or branch transfer, they want 100. And even if I'm down to 20, the new ASQ, I won't be able to fulfill the 100. So is it okay to keep 100 on the shelf when I get ready to place a PO and have the 100 waiting for them? And again, I'm going to do the same thing. How much does that 85 units cost? If it's less than X amount of dollars, let's move it up to 100. If it costs more than that, let's not move it to the 100. Just smart ASQ. And then we talked about one more thing, and that was the T minimums, threshold minimum order points. How do we start a new item? Bless you. We'll put a threshold min. It's a floor. It says, don't let my order point calculate less than this for a certain amount of time, even if there's no usage. If I take this item and put a threshold minimum on it of 15, it will always assure my order points at least 15 until it expires. Okay, that's your way to get new items working, to take advantage of if a new customer starts with you on an existing item, you can prop up the order point until history catches back up. Now remember, T-min is manual. So if T-min was 120, and here's all it's doing. It says, I have 4 possible order points now for any given item. It's calculated a raw, ASQ 5 high, and if a human has put a T-min. And it wants to use the highest number out of those 4 within the dollar parameters that you've provided it to get the best fill rate it can for you. Now, in this case, since T-min is a human set thing, and it's the largest number, it's going to say, hey, I'm going to use the T-min because it's the largest one here. It's human set. You'll look in your system. It'll tell you. Don't go try to calculate the order point because we used a T-min or you'll get confused. How did it come up with 120 and you're trying to do this math? And you'll say, oh, the system's broken. We'll be back to Excel spreadsheets again.